Alrighty, what's up, dudes? We're back with another Mythic Plus VOD review. This time, we're doing a Waycrest Manor on a little bit of an interesting run. This is a teaming, quaking, fortified week. Not exactly the most optimal of affixes for doing high-level Waycrest Manor. However, Heartsbane Triad is also pretty good. I am doing it with Trell, Jamal, Morning, and Evade here, so pretty notable names in the NA Mythic Plus scene. And so first thing you see here is that all these soul essences have Emissary of the Tides with them. Have an Emissary of the Tides, basically not allowing you to be able to stun or interrupt these soul essences with Solar Beam. So you need to make sure that you pop your defensives really early, otherwise you're going to end up either dying, maybe potentially losing your staff, end up getting comboed with Quake and going down. That pull overall is pretty dangerous. So, and then there's another thing here. The reason that I picked 22, because I also did a 23 last week, which is a little bit more of an impressive of a dungeon. But I'm picking this 22 because I actually end up doing a pretty significant amount of damage in this dungeon. I end up ending the dungeon about 63k DPS. And so we can kind of talk through like how I end up doing that over the course of the whole entire dungeon and whatnot. So, as you see, we actually do get bottom right. So that's a really, really good thing to happen, because basically getting like top right is pretty much a death sentence. Getting bottom right or top left is, you're pretty much good to go the whole entire time. So you see here, we are doing a pretty sizable bottom right pull with all these survivalists. I'm going to be using Solar Beam on these survivalists on their Serpent Sting whenever it does come up. However, the survivalists do end up going down, so we actually do have enough kicks that we can rotate through to where it doesn't end up mattering. In addition to that, talents I'm running are pretty standard talents. We got Force of Nature, which are the trees, Restoration, Affinity, pretty common, Typhoon, of course, Wild Charge. I skipped over that, but Wild Charge should probably be your go-to unless you're like doing like a really high Sethralis or maybe King's Rest. Incarnation versus Star-Lord. So generally this will be like a choice for whatever you want to play. I personally prefer Incarnation, and I get 30 seconds of usage out of all of my uses of Incarn. It lines up really nicely with Visions of Perfection Major, which I'm also running here. So I personally prefer Incarn. However, if you do enjoy the playstyle of Star-Lord, feel more than free to play that as well. We also got Twin Moons. Pretty standard. You're never going to play anything else that's on this row. And then we got Fury of Elune. Basically, Fury of Elune versus Shooting Stars. I would play Shooting Stars in Temple of Sethralis and King's Rest whenever the pulls are pretty small, like 2 to 3 mob pulls, 4 mob pulls. In dungeons like this where you need to actually dot pretty frequently, such as like Waycrest Manor or any other dungeon, I would be looking to play Twin Moons and Fury of Elune, not Shooting Stars. So that kind of stuff. As for essences, you actually see me running Visions of Perfection Major, Conflict and Strife Minor, and Purification Protocol Minor. Protocol Minor is very good in Waycrest Manor because there are some aberrations in this dungeon, so you get increased value from that. Conflict and Strife is only good at rank 3, however, I do have it at rank 3, so making sure that you use that is also important. Visions of Perfections versus Essence of the Focusing Iris is kind of subjective. Basically, it depends on like how you're pulling, like level of the dungeons, those kind of things, like how long bosses will end up taking, because a big benefit of Visions of Perfection is actually the minor that you actually obtain from it. Getting all of the cooldown reduction on your Incarnation is fairly important, so you can see that there. And then as for Azurite Traits, of course, triple Streaking Stars, 1 Arcanic Pulsar. I'm also running a Power of the Moon, but that's because the chest piece that I have with Power of the Moon on it is a PvP chest piece. It has overwhelming power and resounding protection on it. I have also triple resounding protection, so pretty tanky, especially for these higher key stuff. It's really, really nice. So far, we've actually just been kind of running through the dungeon. You also saw us drop that darkness on all of those maggots and everything else. I recently have actually been streaming a lot more Mythic Plus in the past couple of weeks. So if you guys do enjoy Mythic Plus content, you should make sure that you come check out my stream. I have a bunch of VODs and stuff up there too, if you want to watch a lot of the runs live. Potential for all of that stuff. So right here, you see me jumping on these tables. That allows me to bait these pallet gorgers to where that they won't end up leaping on the party, putting a dot on our members. So utilizing these line of sight spots, or no path available zones as they're called, is fairly important. So now we're just making our way through the hallway. We're trying, basically, whenever you do get bottom right, the strategy is to lust like immediately, and then you try to make your way to the courtyard as quickly as possible so you can pull a bunch of the trash back into the courtyard area, because the courtyard gives you the most amount of space, and it allows for you to just be in a little bit better of in a position just relative to the whole entire dungeon. All right, so something I want you guys to see there is I actually trees that Emissary of the Tides, and that's like a two-fronted thing. So first reason I trees the Emissary of the Tides is because the Tides does magic damage, which can actually be fairly dangerous for your tank. Brewmaster Monk is probably one of the better tanks at dealing with this amount of magic damage. Obviously, Prot Warrior, any pull with the Tides is pretty dangerous. The second reason that I use it is because of all those maggots in the pack, the trees can actually soak the maggot spits, and if they do soak them, then that reduces damage on the whole entire group by a pretty significant margin. So utilizing Force of Nature trees in that way is pretty important here. Something that I also want you guys to know is I am using the Queen of Shara staff. I have it on a mythic item level. It is very strong in Mythic Plus because it will stack up through the whole entire instance, and you can just kind of pop it whenever. Downsides is that you can lose it, so I wouldn't take the Queen of Shara staff at an item level loss. However, if it's equal to better than your other weapon, I would 100% wear it, like no questions asked. There are some times where it's just like so overpowered, and you'll actually see that I got a really, really good use of my of the Queen of Shara staff in this dungeon. Got really big value on it there. So right here, you actually see me proccing some Visions of Perfection procs here with my Fury of Elune, allowing me to do about 100k DPS without even using Incarnation. We're going to end up looking to chain pull, so I'm going to be looking to use my cooldown whenever, just in a couple seconds, whenever we do get some of these mobs pulled in. I think we're going to pull the Thorn Shaper and the Thorn Guard in just a couple seconds here. After we, oh no, these are triple peasants, so we're gonna have 9 maggots here in just a couple seconds as well. Okay, so here comes the Thorn Shaper and the Thorn Guard. I'm probably going to be looking to pop cooldowns right there. Yep, just as I suspected, because that just makes the most sense for like chain pulling here. It's unfortunate I don't have my trees available to me. I'm really far away, especially since we're going to be probably looking to drop darkness whenever all the maggots come out. I should definitely be positioning myself to try to get into melee a little bit quicker than this. I knew that this was coming, and not getting into melee is like a big mistake here. Something that is important is you actually see me dropping Starfall here. We have like, it's like 12 targets or something like that. We have like 9 maggots plus the Thorn Guard, the Thorn Shaper. So yeah, I guess 11 targets. So it's definitely worth the drop Starfall there. Especially since those maggots do need to die pretty quickly, as the spits are very dangerous for your whole entire group. Alright, and so from here, we're positioning ourselves in a way that we can actually get into the courtyard as quickly as possible, then allowing us to like have a pretty good second bloodlust of the instance, and it also allows us to just have a little bit more real estate for us to do larger pulls back into the courtyard area. So you see me actually getting a really good Visions of Perfection proc. I also am getting some Purification Protocol procs. So you can see down here I'm doing about 120k DPS. Basically, Purification Protocol on all of these Jagged Hounds, since they are aberrations, will make you do just an immense amount of damage if it does in fact proc on all of them. So we do let that effigy reconstitution go through, just because there are no dogs or Thorn Guards available for it to heal. Of course, the Thorn Shaper won't heal itself with the effigy reconstitution, only specific mobs. So we have the Enchanted Emissary that we're dealing with here. Most of the time for something like this, I would probably just let the healer deal with it. It's not that dangerous of a pull. We actually use our Ring of Peace there, and now I'm dropping trees to allow our tank to save a little bit of damage. I can actually track I'm actually tracking his stagger right here with a weak aura that was linked to me in my stream. So I can actually see like how much damage he's going to be taking. Top number is like total damage, bottom number is damage per half second. So you can track like where is actually dangerous for him, where you should be looking to drop trees. It kind of gives you a little bit better perspective of when the tank is going to be taking damage, or if he's just like not purifying off his stagger or something that's like also really troll. That could also potentially be a thing as well. So we proc our Visions of Perfection. We're kind of sad because we're probably going to waste it here with the tank slowly pulling. But we actually do get a little bit of value of it. Obviously proc our Volcanic Pulsar. And like our big goal here is to get Matron Brindle into this fire pretty much ASAP, because she takes just an obscene amount of damage from that fire. I see that our Bloodlust is on cooldown for 2 more minutes, and I know that we will not pull Soulbound Goliath without Bloodlust available, so I elect to pop my Incarnation here and just ram it straight into Matron Brindle. Again, it's just like knowing like where you're going to be pulling, when you're going to be pulling like bosses, knowing what you should have cooldowns available for, because realistically I didn't have to incarn Matron Brindle because she will just like wheel her around to the fire as much as we can, and that will end up doing most of the damage to her. So me using cooldowns on her has diminished value. However, if it's just like a free set of cooldowns that I'm going to be otherwise not getting because I'll just end up holding it for the boss, then there's no real reason for me to just not use it. So here comes one of the most dangerous pulls in the whole entire instance. I don't have trees for 15 seconds. I probably wish I knew what he was going to pull. Ooh, alarm going off. I probably wish that I knew what he was going to pull prior to that occurring, because I should have saved trees, because trees don't taunt Matron Brindle. Like, there's no reason for me to trees that mob, just aside from damage. So again, it's just like it's very much knowledge based. So here, I really want to save trees for when the candles come out, but I think Trell ends up needing them like really early. So the trees actually taunt the Soul Charmer inside of the candles, but we actually use Ring of Peace to get all of the mobs except for the Soul Charmer out. It moves the trees outside of the candles, and then the Soul Charmer will follow the trees out of the candles. So it ends up working out, but in reality, I should have held them for after the candles come out. Now you actually see me dropping really low from the bolts that are going on to me, even though I have Bark Skin. So this is actually very dangerous for us. We're actually kind of scared here. We have Tranquility coming through, though. We're going to be able to stabilize here in just a couple seconds. I wonder what his stagger was actually at. I want to watch that back. So yeah, he's hitting it like 800k total stagger, and you can see him purifying, so it's dropping it a little bit. But even still, he's still jumping right back up to 800k right before he's purifying. So he's taking huge damage per second, even while he's getting healed through. Yeah, so this is like a pretty dangerous pull, especially on teaming. Like, I don't understand why the fuck there's 2 witches, a guard, and a captain in this pack. It really makes no sense why there's lieutenant mobs in general, but whatever. I guess it's just how it goes, right? So I know after this we're going to be looking to pull Soulbound Goliath because we do have Bloodlust available to us. You can actually see right here, my Incarn's coming up in about 10 seconds. So I had a really good usage there, really optimizing and maximizing the amount of cooldowns that I am gaining throughout the course of the whole entire dungeon. All right, and so with the Brewmaster Monk, especially on fortified weeks, you can do something very interesting, what is called not resetting the boss, because Monk is OP. So you actually saw me get a Visions of Perfection proc on pull, and make sure to not overlap Incarn with it, because if I accidentally Incarn into it, then it will waste the whole entire proc. And then you can actually Arcanic Pulsar proc 2 to extend the duration, but you can't Incarn, because Incarning just overwrites the whole entire thing. Something that's also pretty neat about Soulbound Goliath is that you can actually swap to cat form every single time, and if the Soul Thorns would otherwise go on you, they just like evaporate into thin air. So you should be looking to do that every single time. It saves your group damage that could otherwise go into the boss. Downsides is if it doesn't pick you, then you have to swap out of cat form instantly, and then you're probably some of the highest single target damage, like that's like on demand, like target swapping on your whole entire group. So if it is not on you, like it's hard for them to get broken out if you don't have like outlaw rogues that have like a dead eye or between the eyes ready, or like a pistol shot or whatever, right? So now we are just downing Soulbound Goliath the 40-ish%. You see me doing like 63k DPS because I had really lucky vision procs, even though I'm swapping in and out of cat form over and over again. Just vision procs really carrying my damage there. We're going to skip ahead a little bit because this boss is not super interesting. I guess our tank using our healer using Artifice of Time to be able to allow our tank to face tank the boss a little bit longer is pretty important. You see me doing 53k DPS on that boss. I mean, on a single target fight, especially one that lasts like 2.5 minutes. Not even 2.5 minutes. It probably lasted about at 2.5 actually. 52k is just really strong. So you see me here with my Incarn coming up in just a couple seconds. I'm probably going to end up holding it for the next pack, and just knowing like how big we should be looking to go inside of Raw's room. I also have 108 stacks on the staff. I think they stack like, I think it's like 2.5k per stack or something like that, and it does that equivalent of damage and healing to the whole entire group. So we're making sure that we stack it up as long as we can in the instance, and then getting a really good use at a pivotal point where you should be looking to like where like a significant amount of healing is required, or you just use it for like AoE damage. Additionally, you could also use it to pad in like a meme way. So something like that would be like this for the spores and underrot. You could use it on the last boss in order to pad. So you see us doing what I would consider a very large pull here. You see me proccing my Incarn, making sure that everything is dotted up. I'm going to drop my Fury of Elune here. Now I'm looking to heal to try to get my staff in a position to where I can proc it whenever I want to. I'm not below 10% mana yet, but I'm going to hit one more regrowth, and I actually missed the 10% mana mark, which is just me wasting more and more globals. But then I proc the staff. I hit 120k DPS on this pack that I was doing. I don't even know what I was at before, probably like 60k because I was healing a lot. Yeah, okay, so I was sitting at like 60k prior to proccing the staff, but then I like instantly jump up to 120k. So it makes all of those globals worth, plus it makes sure the whole entire group is completely topped on health. Topping both, like you can see our Demon Hunter and our Rogue or our Monk were all pretty low there. So it instantly tops all of them up. I'm doing like 10k HPS while this is all going on too. So that was a pretty big value staff. I think it was like 4.5 million. I think last week I also hit like a 5.5 million staff inside of this instance. This is definitely one of the better instances for the Ashara's Eternal Palace staff. Again, like I was talking about earlier with the Pallid Gorgers, standing on top of this fountain allows them to not jump on you if everybody else is in melee. So me standing up here is really, really beneficial for the whole entire group damage-wise. Our healer actually ends up going down, but I end up pressing him. I'm healing our tank here because he's dropping pretty low, but the pull is essentially over. And so we actually do make it all the way through what was probably the most dangerous pull in the instance, especially in like a teaming environment. So now I'm looking at how much damage it did. Okay, I hit a 4.9 million staff. That was pretty good. So now we're going to be looking to pull some of these Magoots into the boss. Again, just making sure that I actually drop trees on them to be able to help absorb some of the spits is pretty important. It's just like damage that it's just like damage saving. Plus I dropped them on top of the maggots so that our tank is actually not tanking them as well. But the most important thing is like just the ability to soak up the spits. This actually could be pretty dangerous if you actually take any damage from like the raw tenderize here with the spits on you. You could actually end up going down. However, just making sure that you're really diligent about dodging whenever you're doing something this dangerous, you should be fine. Most of the time you can actually stand and tenderize whenever it does have 0 stacks though. It's not really overly challenging or overly dangerous or anything. I think I actually pull some maggots during the boss. Too. I think I actually face pull some of them. So Raw is not the most interesting boss, especially in like this quaking teaming environment. It would be more interesting in something like maybe like a necrotic environment where I have to actually use my trees in like a way like where I'm actually thinking. But for something like this, it's not the most interesting thing. Balanced Druid is so bad on Raw. It's actually kind of insane just because of these oozlings. Most classes get some like form of AoE to single target damage conversion from oozlings, even like Demon Hunter with like revolving blades or something like that, or just their souls in general get better AoE to single target damage conversion from like mobs like this, but Balanced Druid doesn't. In addition to that, sometimes you actually have to kill like the servants or the oozlings, and you really can't starfall like on this boss, like nor should you. So you have to just like kind of dot them up and just kind of let it go as it is. So we do end up killing Raw, making sure that I wild charge out of that tenderize. Otherwise, I would have taken just pretty significant amount of damage. I could also have used Engineering Belt for the shield, or I could have potentially have used Bear Form just to be able to soak up all the damage, but it's not really that big of a deal. So now we are making our way. I think we're going to be doing a 3-pack next. And my Incarn is up in 21 seconds. So we have the guard, the captain, and we already know where the witches' spawns are because we've already done Waycrest Manor on this week. So we already had a really good idea where the witches actually were. And it's a Rune Weaver, so you don't actually have to think about your trees at all. You can just kind of drop them whenever you want. I probably shouldn't have overlapped my trees with his dampen. You can actually see that right here. So this icon right here is dampen harm. I drop my trees like right after he pops Dampen Harm. And I should have been looking at that. Overlapping defensive CPs, especially something as strong as Trees and Dampen, not that great. But it will actually end up being okay. So I do have my Incarn available. I actually end up using it on CD here. So it's actually kind of interesting because I know we have Triad coming up soon, but I see that we also have 2 minutes on our Bloodlust, and I know that we have to have, again, I know that we have to have Bloodlust for Heartsbane Triad. Otherwise, we will probably miss the damage check and actually have one of the explosions go off. So I know that my Incarn here is a pretty safe usage just because of this. And that's what you guys have to be thinking about. You have to be thinking about, where's your Bloodlust? Where's your Incarn? What exactly are like these crux points of the instance where you have to have your cooldown available? And then, like, from there, you just kind of take it piece by piece. You really have to just, like, think about what's going on. 50 seconds left on Bloodlust. A minute and a half left on Incarnation. I know that we have at least one more pack to do. Maybe we end up doing the Patrol. I think we end up actually doing that corner pack. Not the corner pack inside the room, but I think we do the corner pack with the Tides. I don't remember exactly. I'm pretty sure we do the corner pack with the Tides, but maybe we do this Guard Captain pull. Okay, so yeah. We're doing the corner pack with the Tides. I remember this from, like, so this is after we already did the 23. This is like a day later. I remember that I actually really wanted Trees on this because the Tides is like what actually puts our tank in the most danger. You actually see him getting silenced because he's the only one in combat first. So I'm going to be looking to dispel his silence instantly. I know I want to actually Trees pretty early here because we talked about this last time, how once the Tides ends up dying, we're pretty much home free. We let the Ascension Ritual go off on this Runeweaver, so even though we don't end up getting count for the Runeweaver, it actually turns it into a Mythic 0 mob because, I don't know, this game is something. So the Ascension Ritual is, I don't know, it turns him into a Witch, which if the Witch scaled up, it would actually be very dangerous for it to go off. However, it turns it into a Mythic 0 level Witch, like health-wise, so we're just like, whatever, we don't want count from that anyways. It allows the pack to go just pretty quick, too. So, downside of me using Incarn is I'm not going to have it up for pull with Bloodlust, but it's going to be okay. It's not optimal, but I do end up proccing Visions of Perfection on the pull, which is a pretty big saving grace here. It actually allows me to do significantly more damage than I otherwise would have done. I think I end up getting the first Soul Manipulation, which is also fine. Like, it's not really that big of a deal. And then once I come out of this, I pop my Bark Skin because I'm taking damage in a health reduction phase. Basically, there's a reduced healing going out whenever you have Selena activated. So I want to pop my Bark Skin there so that I'm not going to be taking any more damage. Making sure that I'm moving here for Malady, because this debuff right here, if it like stacks up too high, I'm in a pretty bad spot. So I have my Incarn rolling, getting us out of that phase as quickly as possible. I move away from the group with the circle, dispel it off of myself because I want to be able to stagger the circles exploding for Jamal, our healer, to be able to heal it up pretty good. And then basically so their energy bars determine, like you can see it down here, determine whether or not they end up casting that big AoE cast. So making sure that you actually have enough damage throughout the whole entire fight to not let that AoE go off is the most important thing, especially at a high level. If you're running with like a Protection Warrior, that takes about 10% off of each of these Witches' health per phase because of how powerful Spell Reflect is. But since we're running with a Rune Master Monk, it's actually really, really important that we burn these as quickly as possible. So we see Selena here. I think she's going to start her cast, but there's no way that she's going to finish it just because of how low she is on health whenever we are actually getting her high on energy. So she doesn't even start her cast. Like, we're not even in any danger here. And then, of course, because I ended up having Incarn for Malady and Briar, they're both really low on energy. Selena was the only dangerous one there. In an ideal world, you have Selena, because the Soul Manipulation, like Mind Control, you would rather have your cooldowns on her. But, like, I did fortunately enough I was the person who did get mind controlled, so it ended up not really mattering either way. So I'm only gonna have one set of cooldowns on this boss, where otherwise you could have potentially had two sets. I don't know. It would have been really tight for me to have two sets just in general. So after this, we're going to be running through the instance, I think we need one more pack of trash. I don't know exactly where we're going to get it from, but I do know that we need a few more mobs just looking at how much count we have. I know that we need about 320-ish count, so we're going to need to pull a few more mobs here. And I hope you guys do actually enjoy these style of videos. I actually really enjoy doing them as well. Again, like I was saying, if you guys have any questions, feel free to check out my stream. I've been streaming a lot of Mythic Plus lately. So yeah, just make sure you guys go check that out. Also go check out some of the links down in the description. I have my Discord, Patreon, all that kind of stuff. So I actually dropped my trees there to help soak some of the spits again. And then we are just chain pulling those maggots all the way across the room. Okay, so I guess it's I guess it's 85%, not 320 count. I don't know why I thought it was 320 count. So now we are making our way onto Lord and Lady Waycrest room. We're going to be looking to use our Shroud here. We don't really want to pull any of these mobs down in this bottom area, especially on teaming. The only one that you could make a case for is pulling Matron Alma. She would have actually been not the worst mob possible on teaming, because it does actually give a significant amount of count because how many bosses actually work inside of this instance. And it looks like I got a sub on Twitch, which shout out to that. Cool. I'm also getting some followers too. That's also cool. So you see here, I'm popping my incarnation here, and then because I do actually know that we're going to be pulling Lord and Lady Waycrest later, I don't need it on pull. There's nothing really dangerous for me to actually use it on. So having it here is actually a pretty good showing. I actually get a sub from Mia Khalifa, so shout out to Nevernude for that. So that's cool as well, I guess, during this run. So we actually end up killing off all of these mobs here. And then basically we have one pack of trash left. I know we also have the Jagged Hounds after Lord and Lady Waycrest, and then just 2 bosses, and we're pretty much good to go. Again, another Soul Charmer in this pack, but there's also an Emissary of the Tides here. So, like, you kill the Tides off first, and then you're able to actually kick the Soul Charmer. We actually boot the Tides out so that we can actually kick the Soul Bolt. I think we have people in our group comms calling out who the bolt is on, so you should be looking to pop a defensive for that. I don't end up having them on me at all, so I'm actually able to save Barkskin. However, I could have actually used it on the Soul Volley, but it ends up not mattering. Tides dies. Candles are already down. I end up dropping trees. Here come the candles, which there's only 2 seconds left on trees, so that's not good, but there could definitely be worse situations overall, so this is not that bad of a spot. So this pack is pretty much over. We're just going to rotate kicks through on Soul Charmer, and then we're going to pull Lord and Lady Waycrest. So basically with a monk tank, we actually have a dispel for that green circle that you actually get on your people. So I'm going to make sure that I'm positioning myself far enough away that I can get like dispelled instantly to not take any damage from that, aside from the initial application, and then just get a very quick dispel on that. So now my incarnation comes up. I could have saved it for whenever Lady Waycrest comes out to be able to maximize the damage that would have come from this one usage of incarnation, but I've decided that just like basically, especially whenever you're playing Visions of Perfection Major, just slamming Incarn on CD is the way that you want to play it. There are very few times that you really want to hold Incarnation. You have to think about what is the most pivotal point in the dungeon, and if you have to have Incarnation for it, then you save it for that. If not, then you literally just press the button on CD. And that's how it is with Celestial Alignment. That's how it is with Incarnation, with or without Visions of Perfection. Like, if you have to have it, then you have to save it, unfortunately. If not, then you should probably look to just like smash it on cooldown. And of course, like, you need to be able to get like a full use. Like, I don't mean like in the literal sense smash it on cooldown. You have to be able to get like the 30 seconds out of it, taking into account some Arcanic Pulsar procs or visions, like 1 or 2 Visions of Perfection procs. Obviously, if you're going to chain like 4 Visions of Perfection, like major procs, there's like nothing you can really do about it. Like, sometimes you're just going to waste cooldown running pack to pack, but it just is what it is. Lord and Lady Waycrest comes out. Now we're just DPSing them down both evenly because our monk tank is actually in a pretty good spot to be able to take the wasting strikes here. We also do have Artifice of Time again, which gives our tank a pretty big absorb, which delays the damage that he's actually going to be taking. So yeah, so that's the thing. So I'm going to be running over here to jump on one of these pillars to be able to bait the Gloom Horrors. I actually think I miss it both times that I try. So I actually just end up having to get in this other spot. It allows the Gloom Horrors to not... Yeah, so I miss it the second time, so I'm basically just like not up here. So I just like get in this other spot that we have over here, which allows the Gloom Horrors to not jump around. So it's only the tank taking the Shadow Cleave damage, which is actually pretty dangerous for your tank overall, but it's not the worst possible thing. So I'm going to be looking to use my Incarn here. I actually have Arcanic Pulsar and Incarn. So you see he actually leg sweeps pretty early on. I'm going to be looking to use my trees here in just a few more seconds once he does actually end up needing them. And now I'm actually going to start prepping my staff. You actually see me use one regrowth there to try to drop my mana a little bit. Now I'm going to start using a little bit more of these abilities to be able to drop my mana just a little bit more. I'm not entirely sure if it was worth to proc this staff during Incarnation, but it does end up doing a decent amount of damage. I think overall for the damage globals that I consumed, it's probably worth, even though I am inside of my cooldowns. Let me actually go back and see, because I actually hovered over the damage meter to see actually how much it did. Actually, maybe I didn't. Maybe I'm trolling. Okay, so it did 1.09 million. And that cost me about probably like 6 to 7 globals worth of time. So that 1.09 million is definitely worth damage-wise now that I'm really thinking about it. But the opportunity cost is still there, so I probably only gained like 800 to... I only probably gained like 700,000 damage from what I would have otherwise have been doing. So the opportunity cost, you have to factor that in. But overall, I get 2 pretty good usage of Asaro's staff here. I'm actually not in position to be able to DPS the boss on pull. I make my way in at the very end. So something to note too is that we actually have an assassination rogue, which is actually not that great at killing these death touch slavers. So I probably should have been focusing a little bit more than I actually am in this VOD, but it ends up being okay. We make sure that we rotate CCs. We actually have an insane amount of cooldown, or insane amount of stops, because we have a rogue, we have a demon hunter, we have the ring of peace from the Brewmaster Monk. We also have the leg sweep from the Brewmaster Monk. We have 2 Typhoons if we really need them, but those are kind of like last ditch things. We have an insane amount of stops for these death touch slavers, focus death lens or whatever that stuns people. So we don't actually have to like hard focus them down. We can just kind of passively cleave them as we get them. Once you end up getting about 3 of these slavers is about the point where it gets like pretty scary. But you actually see my Incarnation coming up pretty late in the fight here. And that should carry us all the way through to the end of the fight. Just damage-wise, it allows us to burn the boss pretty heavily too. I end up using a health potion there, just because we're in such a good spot, and we're like so far ahead that the only thing that will end up costing us our run here is like potentially wiping. I don't even think wiping would cost us a run. I think it would actually be kind of close, but I think we're still in a fine spot even if we do wipe. I actually see Gorak Tool with a 5 stack of the Shiver Venom here, and I should probably be proccing it on him, but I don't. It expires. That's a mistake from my end, because using it on those Death Touch Slavers would have actually been a sizable damage increase, just allowing myself to do more AoE cleave, because it does actually explode. So Gorak Tool dropping pretty low here. Once he does end up going down, we already do have 100% count, and so we're pretty much home free. That's going to be it for the rest of this video. I'm going to end this instance with 63k DPS or something around that range, which is pretty good for balanced Druid, just all in all. It comes off the back of making sure that I have 2 very, very strong staff procs towards the middle of the instance. You can see it right here, 62.6k. It comes off the back of making sure that I have 2 really strong staff procs, not dying at all, having really, really good Incarnation usage, plus it also is that teaming environment. So it really allows for me to maximize my damage in a way that other Moonkins can't. And it kind of shows the power of Moonkin, because it does have an ability to stay competitive, even under circumstances in which Moonkin does a little bit less damage. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I hope you guys will leave a like and subscribe. I really do appreciate it. Check out all my stuff down in the description. I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. See you later.